because of the epidemic. Do observe social distancing measures and also wear your masks. The CE. Good morning, everyone. As said previously, within this week, the SL government will announce 3 areas where our community can resume to normal operation. And today I am talking about the 3rd area and relaxation of social distancing measures. Usually the social distancing measures are premises-based, and most of them are under CAP 599F, Prevention and Control of Disease, Business and Premises Regulation. But some social distancing measures are in place. They may not be within this regulation. Many of them are in premises being managed by the Leisure and Cultural Services Department. And therefore, with the Secretary for Food and Health and the Director of Leisure and Cultural Services, I'm here this morning to give an account of how these premises will see the measures relaxed in the first of 3 stages. Before I give the floor to the other 2 officials, I'd like to say a few overall remarks. First, any measure that enables Hong Kong to resume normal operation will inevitably bring risks of transmission. While the number of positive cases reported every day has dropped to a relatively low level, but in absolute terms, they are still on a rather high level. So to relax these measures to allow some degree of normal activities in society with more social interaction among citizens, inevitably that will come with some transmission risks. Having balanced different considerations, the SL government has decided on the following measures. So we must appeal to the public. At all circumstances, please comply with the social distancing measures still effective at the moment, and please be vigilant when it comes to infection control. Wear your masks properly, and from tomorrow onwards, we will have 4 days of Easter holidays. Let me appeal to the public once again. I hope everyone in Hong Kong can create favorable conditions for resumption to normal operations after the vacation. And of course, one of the things you can do is to be vaccinated, which is very effective in reducing or preventing serious conditions that will lower the need for hospital admission and hence alleviate the burden on our public health care system. Is not an easy decision. We have a whole team in the SL government. I myself chair the team with the doctors of bureaus, and then when we talked about Leisure and Cultural Services, Mr. Liu, the director, was present so that we can come up with a decision that is in the public interest. We satisfy the need for infection control and to suit the needs of the community in terms of livelihood and everything. I have to admit that every decision cannot satisfy the demand of everyone in Hong Kong. So this is the first stage of social distancing relaxation, and I believe some premises operators will feel disappointed. Once a decision is made, it has to be executed, and in the process, we need to manage risks. And we have to have all the supporting measures, whether we talk about resumption of face-to-face classes by students and also resumption of flights to Hong Kong. In terms of medical supplies and disinfection of premises, to increase the ventilation rate of premises and strict adherence to the vaccine pass are all necessary and relevant departments will enhance enforcement upon relaxation of these measures. The most important thing of all is discipline on the part of members of the public. In the past 2 months or so, when the epidemic was raging, many business operations have been dealt a hard blow. Now, when we closed premises or prohibit evening dine-in, the purpose is not to penalize the operators. As I said, some of the premises have done an excellent job in infection control measures. However, the purpose of these measures is to reduce gatherings, to reduce circulation. Without those premises, people were less inclined to go out, and the number of trips made by members in the community was greatly reduced. I have taken a check. Some premises have been closed for over 200 days in the past 2 years, such as fitness center, 260 odd days, beauty parlor, 240 days, cinemas, over 260 days. Their operation has been dealt a very heavy blow. I must express my gratitude to all these premises during the very difficult period of more than 2 years. They have been very cooperative. We have to fight the pandemic. We must also support enterprises and keep employment. All in all, under the 3 major pillars, we have done a lot. For instance, the first pillar is very focused. We have the anti-epidemic fund. We have got 6 rounds helping different industries, providing relief to affected enterprises and individuals. We have spent $64.7 million in total. And the second pillar is to a number of counter-cyclical measures. In the recent budget, we spent $410 billion. We have got 2 rounds of ESS. In 2020, there was the ESS. We spent $91.5 billion. And on Tuesday, the Finance Committee of Council just approved the 2022 ESS. The money involved was $43 billion. We have spent over $600 billion of public money, equivalent to 20% of our GDP in the past 2 years. This goes to show that we are riding out the storm together with our enterprises. Supporting measures still in operation. That is, those who are still receiving applications will be processed as soon as possible with gradual relaxation of social distancing measures. Then these enterprises and their employees can then, under a much improved environment, revive their business. I now give the floor to the Secretary for Food and Health to explain to you the relaxation of social distancing measures.
Thanks very much. Chief Executive, good morning. On the 21st of March, the Chief Executive announced that starting from the 21st of April, the roadmap and the timetable for relaxation have been announced. Like the dine-in ban will be relaxed and the scheduled premises will be relaxed. It all depends on whether there is any rebound in COVID and whether there is a steady decline. Now, in terms of the pandemic, there is some steady decline. It has created the right condition for us to ease the social distancing restrictions and gradually to resume our economic activities. Starting from the 21st of April, next Thursday, we will start with the first phase of relaxation. And they are in relation to CAP 599F, Prevention and Control of Disease Requirement and Directions. We resumed the nighttime dine-in service and reopened the scheduled premises. In terms of 599G, we relax the gathering in private places, and in order to measure up to public wishes to resume normal life. Because of the transmissibility of Omicron, I hope to stress that in relaxing the social distancing measures, the scheduled premises have to fulfill all the infection control and prevention measures, and they should try to stop the spread of the virus. Over the past 2 years, we have introduced a whole string of measures that have been serving us well, like the number of people, the capacity limit, and also the vaccine pass, which has been recently introduced, the wearing of face mask, the use of Leave Home Safe app, and temperature screening, the provision of sanitizing hand rubs, and so on. Now, there is also the requirement of the air change on premises. For the specific restrictions, now for the restaurants, F&B premises, first, the nighttime dining will be extended to 10 p.m. and nighttime dining will be allowed. Second, patrons per table will be increased from 2 to 4. Third, for a banquet will allow no more than 20 people. And fourth, bars and pubs will continue to be closed. Since we have to introduce the infection control and prevention measures, all staff members before entering the premises will have to undergo an RAT test every 3 days. For the scheduled premises, the sporting venues will be reopened, the indoor and outdoor venues, the fitness centers, beauty parlors, and massage parlors, the performing venues, theme parks, museums, cinemas, and the billiard rooms, the bowling alleys and skating rinks, and amusement game centers, and also the religious places. They will all be reopened. Now, for these scheduled premises, they will be reopened. We have the capacity limit of 50% and group gathering of no more than 4. We allow team-based sporting events. For dining, for eating, and for the beauty parlors and places of worship, people will have to wear face masks in these premises. Earlier, in the anti-epidemic kit, we have provided the KN95 kit face masks, and if people are wearing the face masks, they have to be tight-fitting. If they're not tight-fitting enough, they have to wear 2 masks. These are according to the expert's advice. Also, in relation to vaccination, the patrons at the cinemas will be allowed to eat and drink. And there are 2 requirements there. First, in terms of the staff members of the cinemas, they have to have 3 shots of vaccines, or they must have the exemption, medical exemption, or they must be recovered patients with 2 shots. Second, all the patrons will need to have 3 shots of vaccines, except for children under the age of 12 or recovered patients over the past 3 months. If they have 2 shots, they would be regarded as fulfilling the entrance requirements. And also under 599G, starting from the 21st of April, we will lift the mixing of 2 households in private places. And this multi-household restriction will be lifted. And next week, we will be submitting proposals to the EXCO to relax the group gathering ban limit from 2 to 4. Yesterday, you probably noticed that the SCED mentioned that the local tour of no more than 30 people will be resumed on 2 conditions. First, the staff members must have 3 shots of vaccines, and on the day of the trip, they have to undergo RAT test. Second, all the tourists will have to fulfill the prevailing requirements under the vaccine pass regime. On the day of the trip, all travelers will have to undergo the RAT. If they test negative, then the number of people can be relaxed to no more than 100. We will also extend the public transport arrangement and public places arrangement in terms of wearing face mask. All these measures that we announced, as the chief executive said, will ensure that we will be able to relaunch our society and relaunch economic activities and put ourselves back on the way to a normal life. But this is not without any risk. The daily COVID positive cases is not at a low level. The number is still at a pretty high level. The pandemic has not completely receded, so we have to fulfill all the social distancing measures and should not let our guard down. For those who haven't quite got the jab for the first, second, third, and fourth doses, they should go get the jab so that we can be back to normal soon.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Thank you, CE. Fellow citizens, friends from the media, good morning. In the light of the first stage of relaxation of social distancing measures, LCSD will start from next Thursday, i.e. the 21st of April, reopen some leisure and cultural services venues. Now for leisure venues, now indoor venues, squash courts and indoor games halls will be opened, and outdoor leisure venues such as sports ground, tennis courts, bowling green courts, and basketball courts, etc. And also outdoor cultural facilities such as a children playground and fitness equipment will be open again. Starting from Saturday, that is the 16th of April, you may use our app to make bookings of these venues. And the participants must be no more than groups of 4. When it comes to team sports and team training, each venue will have a capacity limit according to the rules of the game involved. For instance, if it is a basketball game, in a basketball match, it can be 5-a-side, and the relevant referees can be present. And in the first stage, all sportsmen or all athletes will have to wear face masks. Some leisure services, such as public swimming pools, beaches, and also water sports center and BBQ sites will not be opened in the first stage. For some water sports, we hope that they can be opened in the second stage. As for cultural services venues, public libraries, museums, and performing venues will be reopened. The participant cannot be more than 50% of the capacity, because some LCSD venues are being used for anti-infection measures, and some are under improvement works, and so they cannot be opened yet. Later today, we will issue a press release, and online we will announce the details. Anyone entering an LCSD venue or an indoor venue must comply with the relevant requirements under the vaccine pass. Before arrival, please store your QR code in your mobile app, the vaccine pass or the medical exemption certificate, or you can bring along your paper-based vaccination pass so that when you enter venue, the QR code can be scanned and then it will be more efficient. And I'll take questions from members. Will you please raise your hand if you want to ask a question, and also identify the organization you represent and use the microphone we pass to you. On the right-hand side, the lady in pink. I'm from Phoenix TV. We're told that cinemas will be reopened, and for restaurants, staff will have to go through RAT tests. I'd like to know whether you will will you require customers to do RAT tests as well? Now, we still have over 1,000 positive cases on a daily basis. Relaxing the social distancing measures, will it cause a rebound? Because the current situation is hard-earned. Now, if there is a rebound, will you tighten the measures again? Now, a new variant of Omicron has been found in the mainland and also Taiwan. Are you worried that by relaxing the measures, there will be another round or the sixth wave of outbreak? Thank you for your question. I will take the first part, and on the third and second questions, I'll defer to my officials. As I said in my opening remarks, every time we make a decision to relax or tighten the infection measures, is a difficult decision. It's not just about our public health. It's also related to our social and economic development, the needs of our of people's livelihood and also people's sentiments. So every time I said that if it's just a public health issue, it's much easier. Now, so long as we have a case, then we can close all venues. But this is not the way to do it, because we have students that have to go to school, and premises have to do business, and so we have to strike a balance under the principle that we should safeguard people's lives and health. This is undoubtedly our purpose. But then the number of confirmed cases has gone down from the peak of over 70,000 a day to more than 1,000 every day. And if we still do not relax the social distancing measures, the impact on our economy and our community will be too great. And will people still adhere to these measures? There is a big question mark. At the end of the day, it's about a balancing act, and it's about risk management. Now we have done more than a year's work of risk assessment. Now we talk about vaccination. With the exception of those aged between 3 to 11, most of adults have been vaccinated. The rate is now 92.5%, a rather high level. And now we have started to administer the fourth dose. This afternoon, I'm going to receive the fourth shot myself. So that is in terms of prevention. And of course, we've got the vaccine pass. We require people going into these premises to be reopened to have the vaccine pass. They have to be vaccinated. And for many of the public places, we require staff to have RAT. Now, catering premises are higher risk because people have to remove their face masks to eat, and therefore, in these places, while all staff are required to be vaccinated, this requirement has always been in place. Customers must be vaccinated before entering these premises. And every 3 days, staff members are required to undergo RAT. So I think with these safeguards in place, the risks are manageable, and that we can allow our community to resume normal operation. As I said, in the past 2 years or so, in our fight against the pandemic, many business premises have been closed for more than 200 days and some up to 300 days. While we have spent already $600 billion to enhance resources, at the end of the day, businesses want business operation. They don't really want to rely on government subsidies. Today's decision has gone through very careful deliberation, and I think they are in the overall interest of Hong Kong. And I'll give the floor to Professor Chen to talk about the new variant of the virus. Thank you, CE. Thank you very much for your question. On mutation of the virus, we have to monitor the imported cases. This is done by genome sequencing of the experts of our Center for Health Protection to see whether we have those variants in Hong Kong. Now, if we have these variant cases, we have to consider the level of risk, because some viruses are mutating every day. The point is to assess the risk of a new variant to Hong Kong is transmissibility, whether it has the same level of transmissibility as Omicron, and whether our vaccines can protect us against the new variant. So this is what we are monitoring on a daily basis. As said by the chief executive, on the one hand, society has to resume normal, and we have to manage risks. The current round of relaxation is gradual and orderly. And now, some of the premises will be reopened. In the past 2 years, they have done a lot in terms of risk management, enhancement of air exchange, etc. These are measures to manage risks properly. Thirdly, whether we're preparing for another wave, the answer is yes. If there is any rebound, of course, we have different measures in place already, as outlined by the CE already. That is infection control in these premises, cooperation on the part of the public, and also tests required. All these are management measures. We will not lower our guard. Of course, our testing capacity and isolation capacity in terms of manpower and number of beds, we are now prepared. Thank you.
Next, please. A lady in pink to my left. TVB. In connection with the relaxation, now for cinemas, the patrons will need to have 3 shots before they can eat and drink. Now the code for the recovered patients will not be available until next month. So the recovered patients cannot go to the hospital soon enough. Why don't you roll this out next month when everything is ready? Also about the food, the restaurants, why do you still close the bars? Every time you close the premises, the bars would say that they cannot be reopened unless they have the food license. That during these holidays, if there is a rebound, will you be telling us that these places will not be open again on the 19th and 20th? Now, we have in-person classes, and Penny's Bay is not fully utilized. It is likely that the number will be coming down to 3-digit. Is it the right time for us to get on with a compulsory universal testing? Some experts said that if you do not get on with this, we may not be able to flatten the curve, and we may have the sixth wave. So shouldn't we get on with the compulsory universal testing instead of leaving this to the next term of administration? Now, if we're going to have the sixth wave, will this administration be held responsible? Right. SFH, thank you, Chief Executive. About the cinemas, the practice is that for the recovered patients, they do have the paper-based proof, and that will address the issue. As to the details, the CEDB will later on announce further details. Second, about bars, we said repeatedly that the relaxation will be on a gradual basis. They will be on conditions, and there will be monitoring as well. Now, the reason why we have to phase them out is precisely this. As the Chief Executive said a moment ago, in terms of relaxation, the daily COVID number is not particularly low. We still have more than 1,000 caseload per day, so we have to tread carefully here. If we relax everything all in one go, then in terms of risk control, in terms of the flow of people, that may not represent the most desirable approach. So we are doing this in phases on a gradual basis, having regard to the level of risks. As to the long holidays, whether there is going to be a rebound, we have been making the plea. Now, first, the COVID number is still high, and in the community there are still chains of transmission. And I hope that people will not let it get down. They should exercise self-discipline. The battle against the pandemic requires cooperation on our part to make sure that the risk of a rebound will be minimized. So we have to pull in the same direction and work in a concerted manner. Of course, people are suffering from pandemic fatigue. If we can be exercising self-restraint, if we can minimize our trips outside and minimize or reduce the length of time that we spend outside, then I'm sure that would certainly help. Next, please. A lady in green at the back, please.
I'm from Hong Kong International Business Channel. So the Easter holiday starts tomorrow. People flow on streets might increase, leading to a COVID case rebound. Has the scheduled dates of relaxing social distancing measures on April 21st taken this potential risk into account? Does setting the relaxation dates on next Thursday after the Easter holiday contradict with its aim? Is it possible that the relaxation could be suddenly halted after the Easter break and before April 21st? And the second question is, will there be any circuit breaker system for the relaxation once if COVID cases surge in certain premises? If yes, to what extent, if the number of cases goes up again, the premises will be asked to close again? Who has the power to decide and make such order? Is it the Secretary for Food and Health or the Chief Executive? The last question is, for those who has taken their first jab but infected before getting their second jab and has a 3-month exemption from getting the second dose, what will be the arrangement for them in the cinemas and also restaurants? Thank you.
I'll answer the first two questions and then invite the Secretary for Food and Health to address the vaccination issue. Yes, we will start the Easter holiday tomorrow. And after the Easter holiday, schools will resume their class-to-class learning from the 19th of April. And the first phase of relaxation on the 21st of April will go ahead. I don't think we would be caught in a situation that we need to put on hold what we have announced this morning about the first phase relaxation. Because I'll come to the point about the precautionary measures and the capacity building that we have done over the past 3 months, which enable us to manage a possible risk of rebound in cases. But of course, you remember that when I mentioned about relaxation of social distancing measures on the 21st of March, it was supposed to take place in a gradual, orderly manner through 3 stages over a period of 3 months. So we have not gone into details this morning about the second phase and the third phase. Exactly, is because we need to monitor the situation after the Easter holiday and also to take account of possible scenarios of a sudden increase in confirmed cases. So that's the position we are taking. It is not a matter of contradiction. It is a question of meeting the aspirations of Hong Kong people and a large number of business premises which have not had a chance to do business for a very long period of time. So this is what I repeatedly said in our anti-epidemic work. It is not simply just a public health issue. We have to take account of the social and economic needs. In the case of school resumption, we have to take into account the mental health of the young children. So it is not a decision. And you asked about what is the authority to decide. The authority is a steering committee chaired by myself within the Hong Kong SAR government, which has been set up since the epidemic hit us in early 2020. I think it was set up in January, late January 2020, and has gone on throughout the last 2 years and 3 months with myself as the chair, and all participants, all principal officials are participating, as well as some heads of department whenever we have a particular issue that we need to tackle. But statute, in terms of legal provision, the order is to be made by the Secretary for Food and Health under Cap 599F as far as scheduled premises are concerned. But every decision is made by a very high-level committee, taking account of all the factors that I have just mentioned. Now, we could not give you an exact figure of what we would do when the daily number of cases hit a certain number. Because in public health terms, it's more important and relevant to look at the trend rather than a daily figure, which could be affected by various situations. So clearly, we are now trending down. It's not only the daily confirmed cases that has dropped by over 90%, but all the other indicators that we have been monitoring from the sewage tests to the number of positive cases discovered in restriction testing declaration, to the overall positive rate of some 80,000 PCR tests taken every day at the various venues. All indicators were trending down, which represents almost over 90% decrease from the 21st of March when I announced this plan to gradually open up the Hong Kong society. On the other hand, at this point in time and into the near future, Hong Kong is much, much better prepared to handle another wave. Nobody wants a 6th wave, but if a 6th wave hit us, we are now much, much better prepared. One is because of the level of vaccination. Our problem now is with the elderly, which still have 30% unvaccinated, and with the children between 3 and 11, we still have about 35% unvaccinated. But this is much better than end of last year already. And then we have far more facilities to handle confirmed cases, ranging from home support teams to the community isolation facilities to holding centers for elderly and community treatment center of the hospital authority, and also a designated COVID-19 hospital beds in the hospital authority. So you have heard us saying that now everything is preparing, is in a very good preparatory mode. The rooms, the beds, the vaccines are all waiting to tackle any possible surge in situations. So with this greater capacity, it would be very, very unreasonable and perhaps unacceptable to the majority of Hong Kong people to continue to close all these premises and allow people no chance to lead a normal life. I don't think that is what Hong Kong people want, let alone the premises operators, some of whom will be disappointed by what we have announced this morning because they are not in the first phase of reopening, just like bars that somebody has asked about. So this is a very balanced and prudent approach in order to meet the needs of Hong Kong. About jabs, okay. So about recovered patient and vaccination, and also the requirements in these premises as per vaccine pass. First of all, I think we can simply look at if you are a recovered patient or recovered person. It's like you have taken one dose of vaccine, okay? So if you have been infected, then you are given 6 months to do your jabs in terms of meeting the requirement for vaccine pass. So for those who have not had any vaccination, and if you are a recovered patient, then it's like you have already got one dose. And similarly, you know, it goes on. If you have one jab, then it means that you have 2 jabs. If you have done 2 jabs, then that means you have you meet the requirement for 3 jabs. But of course, one have to look at the vaccine pass requirements. And that is, if it is 2 jabs or 3 jabs, and then, you know, one would have to follow, you know, that one, but you are given time to do that, okay? Second is how to do it. Right now, because we are still working on very closely with ITB on the digitalizing this recovered patient QR code, then right now I think we accept paper. So that is when you have certification or, you know, any certification you can get in terms of certifying you are a recovered patient, like discharge from hospital or, you know, isolation order, etc., etc. Then you can show to the people who are checking on the vaccine pass. But I think in the near future, when that digitalized model is being prepared, then, you know, you would be able to do it within, you know, the vaccine pass or your QR code when you show it to the operator or the people who are checking, you know, on these vaccine pass. Thank you.
好。
全民強檢咧就係我哋。
Well, we haven't given up on compulsory universal testing. The Secretary for Food and Health indicated this position on behalf of the government in LegCo, but it all depends on the timing and also our capacity. I've entrusted the Secretary for Constitution and Mainland Affairs to plan and to handle this matter, and there will be announcement in due course. The gentleman in the front in green high, I'm from HKEJ. how come the qualification vetting committee still hasn't announced the requirement for the replacement mechanism? You said that it would be announced this week, but yet we haven't got any announcement. Is it because you think that there is only one candidate? There is sufficient capacity to cope? And what about an acting person for the CS4A? Do you think it is now the time to follow up with the central authorities? And what about the Commission on Poverty and the Commission on Youth, and also a Constitutional Development Committee chaired by the CS4? The announcement by Mr. Lee to run in the CA race, or are you acting on his behalf? Although this is not related to the anti-epidemic effort, I'm happy to reply. Now, today, I am going to announce that the chairman of the qualification vetting committee will be appointed, and the importance of the job doesn't hinge upon the number of candidates. Whether we talk about 1, 2, or 3 candidates, we will deal with this very seriously, because this is a very important aspect of the improved electoral system. That is, all candidates will have to be confirmed to be a patriot by the qualification vetting committee before he can run in a public election. The Financial Secretary, Mr. Paul Chen, will take over from Mr. Johnny, the former CS4A, as the chairman of the CERC. The other official member, Mr. Choi Ying-wai, has also resigned, and the other official member is Secretary for Education, Mr. Calvin Young. So the composition was to be 1 chairman, 3 official members, and 3 non-official members. I believe the committee is going to convene immediately after the Easter vacation to consider the qualifications of candidates, and then we can go into the canvassing period. Now, within 7 days after the close of nomination period, and that is before the 23rd of April, the CERC will have to make an announcement. The arrangement after the post of CS4A has been vacated. As I said previously, whether we are talking about Article 48(5) of the Basic Law, through my nomination and appointment by the central authorities, or by the normal acting arrangement when a certain principal official is on leave. Now, I have already submitted both suggestions or both alternatives to central authorities for consideration. On the 7th of April, upon my recommendation, the State Council already removed Mr. Johnny from the position of CS4A. Now, I've just received notice that because this government has less than 3 more months before its end, the central authorities will not appoint another CS4A during the period. In other words, Article 48(5) of the Basic Law will not be invoked because the central authorities has considered the acting proposals. So, having consulted the central authorities, I'm not prepared to make any acting arrangement. In other words, from now to the 30th of June this year, the CS4A position of Hong Kong SAR government will continue to be vacant. I'm still very confident that there will not be major impact on the work of the SR government because the CS4A has got some statutory duties, but they aren't too numerous in number. And if such duties have to be exercised, then I can invoke Cap 1 Interpretation and General Clauses Ordinance and appoint another public officer to carry out the duty of function originally required by the laws in Hong Kong to be discharged by the CS4A. We had one attempt already. That is the power of exemption under Cap 599. We've already appointed another official to exercise the statutory duties of the CS4A. Now, if we need to do it again, then by direct and then indirect by order, I can appoint another official to carry out the duties. But as I said, such duties aren't too numerous in number. The position of CS4A to exercise certain statutory functions and Hong Kong laws are not that frequent for duties exercisable by convention, and that is by appointment of the chief executive. Of course, I can withdraw that authority, and the chief executive can perform those duties. There are duties not statutory in nature, but in a coordinating role within the government, because we have got 13 bureaus and we have to coordinate among these bureaus. You mentioned 3. In fact, there are more. We have the internal policy committee within the government. Now I am the chair, and we've met already. And there is also the Commission on Poverty and the Youth Development Commission, and also first meetings with newly arrived council generals, and also weekly meetings with the House Chairman of LAGCO. I have either taken over or appointed another official to do it. For instance, weekly meetings with the President and Vice President of LAGCO. I've already appointed Mr. Chan Kwok Kei, the director for Xi's office, to take over, and they've already met with Mr. Ma Fong Kwok and Mr. Andrew Leung. So there are due arrangements in place.
Well, let's make it the last question. Lady over there, please. Now, TV. About the relaxation of the measures, you haven't mentioned the second and third phases. What about the roadmap? Is it going to be the same as before in terms of roadmap, or are you worried that because of the risk of rebound, you are not going to be able to relax on a month-by-month basis? Will the administration have any hard and fast target? When we hit a certain number, we will tighten up the measures again. And also cinemas, the patrons will need 3 shots. How difficult is it in terms of implementation of this measure? Now, for the CS, you said a moment ago that this will not be filled in this term. Is it a rare occurrence? A lot of the COVID measures will have to be coordinated by the CS. I mean, are we running out of one of the commanders there? Or is it, in the eyes of the central authorities or the Hong Kong government, there is nobody who is suited to be a CS for now? For the first question, I've already said that on the 21st of March, we have rolled out the roadmap. We hope that we can implement the measure to relax the social distancing measures in a gradual manner in 3 months, in 3 phases. But the face mask will have to be kept on for some time to come. Now, today we're announcing the first phase. There are certain premises that do not fall into the first phase. They will have to wait for the second phase or the third phase, for that matter. Now, many journalists are worried about the likelihood of a rebound following the relaxation and following the in-person class resumption. Now, we have to monitor the situation. We will make announcement about the next phase, about the reopening of the premises. We really would very much like to have more certainties to the trades. Now, we're going to have the holidays coming up. We are indeed worried that because of the mixing, like the Lunar New Year, we might see some undesirable consequences. It would be hard for us to have any hard and fast number if we go back to 50,000 cases per day. Then I'm sure the whole community would be worried about the relaxation. But this is not the target. The last thing I want to see is there are headlines tomorrow to say that 50,000 will be the number. We don't have a hard and fast number. We have to observe the trend. Over the past couple of months, we have been monitoring the trend for the fifth wave. It peaked on the 3rd of March. It's been a month on, so we have to monitor the trend on the basis of the indices to see whether there are any changes enough to convince us that there will be changes. As I said, we have increased our capacity on many fronts. I don't think we should apply the same mindset that we had before the fifth wave. Now we have the ramped up capacity, and we are capable of handling higher numbers. And I don't think the relaxed policies should be rolled back or tightened up within a very short period of time. It has to do with the overall economic and social needs. Talking about economic and social needs, I'd like to say in passing that a couple of days ago, some questions were directed at me about how I see the aviation hub. That in 2021, the cargo flights ranked number 1 in the world. It says a lot about the resilience in Hong Kong. If we can implement suitable policies, there will be good prospect for Hong Kong's economic development. In 2021, we again clinched back the number 1 air cargo status. We have 5 million metric tons of cargo. I think we have to be confident in Hong Kong. We have to implement the policies to tie in with economic and social development, and we can carve out a path for us. The second question about cinema, we are offering an additional choice. The CEDB has discussed this with the cinema sector. There are so many houses in Hong Kong cinemas these days. They very much like to see eating allowed in cinemas. Now, this is an added choice. That it's okay if they don't do it, but if they have the capacity and if they're willing to implement this, after all, this would require enforcement, and they will be allowed to require the patrons to show their proof of vaccination or 3 shots of vaccination. Then they will be given extra treatment. So this is an additional choice for the cinema operators. And as far as I know, they are willing to enforce this, but if they experience difficulties, they can choose not to have this. They can open the cinema minus the eating part. As to the question about the CS post falling vacant, it is a rare situation indeed. Normally we have the acting arrangement. If I step out, if I go on a trip for a couple of days, there will be deputizing arrangement. But having consulted the CPG's views, it would be an appropriate arrangement to have not to have any acting arrangement, which I don't have an objection. Now, I've been CS for 4.5 years. I'm sure that we should be able to cope. Over the past 2 years, you've seen me quite a lot. And as I said, in January 2020, we've set up this high-level steering committee, of which I am chair. if the CS post can be filled, some of the work of coordination of the departments can be shared, and the CS can set up some working group to liaise with the mainland. Like last year, we discussed the reopening of the border, and this year we had the meetings in Shenzhen. Certainly, that would help the chief executive's work. But in terms of the control and prevention of the COVID, it is very much the responsibility of the chief executive. Thank you all very much. That's it for today. Thank you.
我諗我哋今日都冇啲
There were no more Q&A session.